Hello everyone, it's Hungry Masha. 2 weeks ago I participated in the Tiramisù World Cup in Treviso and I decided to share my experience with you. This video will be helpful for you if you want to participate in the Tiramisù World Cup next year, or if you are just interested in some information about Treviso. Actually, in this case, I recommend you my food vlog from Treviso, or you have just found out that there is such competition and you want to know more about it. Are you ready to learn my experience? Let's go. I have a lot of information for you today and I divided it into 4 parts. In the first part I will talk about Treviso and why the Tiramisù World Cup is held there. In the second part I will tell you how I prepared for this competition. In the third part we will talk about the organization and finally about my participation. I tried to cover all the possible questions, but still, if you have some questions after watching this video, don't hesitate to write them in the comments below. Treviso is a lovely Italian city located in Veneto region, only 40 kilometers from Venice. It's a small city, the population is only 83,000 people, but it's known worldwide for a couple of things, for instance, tiramisu and prosecco. For a very long time I thought that tiramisu was some kind of a very old dessert and that the creator of this dessert was not known anymore, but it turned out not to be true. The origin of tiramisu is a controversial question because there used to be similar desserts and several places in Italy claim that they invented tiramisu. But the recipe recognized by the Italian Academy of Cuisine was invented in Treviso in the restaurant Libeccheria in the end of 1960s, beginning 1970s. At that time, this restaurant was owned by Ado and Alba Camperol, and together with the pastry chef of this restaurant, Loli Lingotto, they invented this recipe. In one of the videos I watched about this dessert, the son of this couple admitted that tiramisu was an evolution of a very old dessert called sbatudin. Sbatudin is made by whisking eggs with sugar and coffee. In Libeccheria they just added ladyfingers soaked in coffee, mascarpone into the cream, and they created one of the most famous desserts worldwide, tiramisu. An interesting fact is that the word tiramisu is the most searched Italian word online. For the first time, the Tiramisù World Cup was held in 2017 in Treviso. At that time, there were 720 participants. The competition was held in 2020 and 2021 despite the coronavirus restrictions. There were less participants, probably less foreign participants, but the most important is that the Tiramisù World Cup took place. There was actually a boom in the interest in tiramisu during the lockdown because many people stayed home, they had more time and they were improving their cooking skills. There was even a shortage of mascarpone and ladyfingers at some point in Italy. So this Tiramisù World Cup was the 8th edition. If you want to participate in this competition, you just have to buy a ticket. I bought the ticket in July when they started being sold, but actually you can get an early bird ticket already now for the next year, and it costs only 10 euros. I got my ticket for 25 euros. First thing you need to do when you start preparing for the Tiramisù World Cup is to read the rules. There are 2 categories in which you can compete. The first one is the original one or classic tiramisu, and the second one is creative tiramisu. In the first category you are given 6 mandatory ingredients, namely mascarpone, ladyfingers, coffee, cocoa powder, egg whites and yolks and sugar. You have to use all of them except for the egg whites because this is optional. You can use just egg yolks. In the creative category you are given the same ingredients, but you have to use just 4 of them. Mascarpone, egg yolks, coffee and cocoa powder. You can replace ladyfingers and sugar. You can also add up to 3 extra ingredients, but you have to buy them yourself. Other ingredients are given to you by the organizers. I wanted to get the tickets for both categories, but when I discovered that the sale started, there were no more tickets left for the original category. But the tickets for the creative category were available even a week before the competition. So the creative category is the less popular, although I think it's more interesting. At that time when I got the tickets, I did not know what tiramisu I would cook, because before I had tried just 2 recipes, classic tiramisu and lemon tiramisu. I like lemon tiramisu very much, but in my recipe I don't use coffee and cocoa powder, and these ingredients are mandatory. Plus, I use homemade lemon curd in my tiramisu, and you can't use homemade ingredients. You can't use heating appliances either, so my lemon tiramisu recipe was not good for this competition. I had to invent a new recipe. I started doing this a month and a half before the competition in the end of August. So let's see how I did this. It's the 21st of August and I'm starting to prepare for the Tiramisù World Cup that will take place less than 2 months in Treviso. I will participate in creative tiramisu competition, so I have to create my own recipe. My idea is to make oriental tiramisu, so I will add cardamom into my tiramisu and some other ingredient. I will try 3 recipes. First one is cardamom and lemon. Second one is cardamom and tahini paste. And the third one is cardamom and pistachio paste. Unfortunately, today I couldn't get pistachio paste. It's very difficult to find it in Budapest, so I will have to order it and make pistachio tiramisu some other time. I also got mascarpone cheese, egg yolks. At the competition, I will be given both yolks and whites, but I decided to use just yolks. I also have very strong black coffee made in mocha, Savoiardi biscuits and sugar. I won't show you the whole process of the preparation because it's just an experiment now. Later, when I choose the recipe, I will make a video about it if you are interested. I add half a teaspoon of cardamom into the coffee to infuse it. The coffee is room temperature, so it takes more time to infuse. The cream is already made. You can see the color is nice and yellow because of the egg yolks. I also mixed lemon juice with sugar for the lemon tiramisu. And now I'm going to assemble the tiramisu. Both tiramisus are ready. The tahini one is grayish because of the tahini paste. We will try them a bit later and choose the best one. So the first time I decided not to practice the design, but to choose the good recipe. As I said, I wanted to try pistachio tiramisu as well, but after trying the tahini tiramisu, we fell in love with it and we decided that it was the recipe to cook the Tiramisù World Cup. And it was a good decision because even in my group, at the competition, there were people with pistachio paste, and actually I saw pistachio tiramisu in many places, even in Budapest. The next step was to choose the design. I searched for designs online, on Pinterest, YouTube and TikTok, and I liked this picture. So I tried to make this, and that's what I got. It didn't look the same. I decided that I needed more research and more practice. I also discovered another problem. Usually you need to keep your tiramisu for 6-8 hours in the fridge before serving it. In this case, the liquid from the cream is absorbed by the lady fingers, and the lady fingers become softer. But at the World Cup, you don't have this time. The judges try tiramisu within 15-20 minutes after you cook it. So if you don't soak the lady fingers enough in the coffee, they will be too hard. But if you soak them too much, the tiramisu will start leaking. There is a very fine line between your tiramisu being too wet and too dry. That's why you need a lot of practice, but even this doesn't guarantee a perfect result, and I will show you later why. In my tiramisu there were some oriental ingredients such as cardamom and tahini, so I decided to call it When West Meets East, and I decided to add some oriental elements into my design. I decided to use a stencil and I found a good stencil. I practiced to make this tiramisu and the design for 5-6 times, and I will show you the last time when I tried to make it at home before going to Treviso. I arrived to Treviso 2 days before the day I was competing. One of the reasons being that the flights from Budapest to Treviso are not every day. Plus there were different side events organized during the Tiramisù World Cup. For instance, I went to the briefing with the champion of 2021, Stefano Serafini, and to the cooking show with the last year champion in the creative category, Mario De Santis. They gave us lots of advice. It was very useful. For instance, Mario De Santis gave me an idea to cut the lady fingers when they are dry before soaking them in coffee. It made my tiramisu look neater. On the other hand, after the briefing with Stefano Serafini, I got a bit stressed because he gave lots of ideas. I wanted to try them and I did not have enough time. So I went to the supermarket, I got all the ingredients and I practiced making tiramisu once again at home one day before the competition. Some of the ideas did not work for me, so it was good that I tried them not during the competition but a day before. The participants and the general public had a chance to try tiramisu made by the champions of the previous years. There was a special area organized and you could buy the tiramisu for €4.50. I tried the tiramisu made by Giuseppe Salvadon, the champion of 2022. It was a classic tiramisu. In my opinion, it was very good. The cream was very airy. I think the eggs were beaten very well. And there was a very strong taste of coffee, which I like. On the other hand, in my opinion, it was too sweet. In the aftertaste, I could feel only sugar. Personally, I don't add much sugar into my tiramisu because I like the taste of mascarpone, of coffee and sugar. If there is too much sugar, it dominates. I also had a chance to try the tiramisu made by Mario De Santis. It was a creative tiramisu with the queen's jam and the cinnamon. I preferred this one actually because the queen's jam is a bit sour and the taste was more balanced. I also attended the opening ceremony in Piazza di Borsa, where there was a special orangery constructed for the competition. Even the mayor of Treviso, Mario Conte, was there. I think this is quite a big event for the city. As I said, in 2017, there were more than 700 participants. This year, I don't know the exact number, but let's imagine that not all of them come from Treviso or from nearby cities, so they have to travel, they have to stay in hotels, they have to rent apartments. Sometimes they come with their families. So I think there are more than 1,000 people coming just for the Tiramisù World Cup. When we were booking the accommodation in Treviso, I noticed that the prices were higher than when we were in Treviso in February, and there were less options. So if you need to book accommodation in Treviso during this period, do it in advance. I would have tried more tiramisu from the previous champions, but after the first day, I had an overdose of tiramisu. I also made a tiramisu at home, and I could not eat any tiramisu for a few days. I also attended the cooking show with the chef of Le Bakerie restaurant. It was very interesting. He was talking about some small details. For instance, if you use fresh mascarpone, it changes its taste every day, so you can't have a stable result. It's very volatile. In general, I was very satisfied with the organization. There were many interesting events, both for the participants and for the general public. The atmosphere was very good. So I recommend that you go to the Tiramisu World Cup, not to compete probably, but just to feel this atmosphere. And finally, the most interesting and the biggest part, the competition. I was competing the next day after the opening ceremony, but I have to arrive 30 minutes in advance. By the way, if you have fresh ingredients, you have to get them in the supermarket maximum 30 minutes before going to the registration desk. When I arrived to the Chamber of Commerce, where there was a registration desk, there were quite a few people, but I didn't have to wait for a long time. I got my badge with my name, my table number, and the participants' bag. I thought that I would have an apron and a hat in the participants' bag, but actually there were some gifts from the sponsors like coffee capsules and cocoa powder. Then I went to the orangery in Piazza di Borsa. It was right next to the Chamber of Commerce. I found my table. In total, there were 3 tables, 10 participants maximum per table. But actually, in the creative category, there were less participants because, as I said, not all the tickets were sold. As far as I remember, at my table, there were 7 participants. The winner at each table was selected for the semi-finals. When we came there was an apron on the table, a hat. There were some dry ingredients like lady fingers, cocoa powder. There was also a bottle of Prosecco, but it was just some advertisement from the sponsors. Later we were given fresh ingredients such as mascarpone, egg whites and egg yolks. They were fresh from the fridge, so they were not given earlier. Then we were offered some room temperature coffee. You need a separate bowl for it. You have to bring your own bowl for coffee or some kind of Tupperware. You can ask for more coffee if it's not enough, or you can dilute it with water. That is also on the table. But I don't recommend that you dilute it with water because tiramisu should have a strong taste of coffee, and if you dilute it, it's weaker. We did not start cooking at 12. First, the judges had to see our extra ingredients. Next to me, there was some Italian guy who had pistachio paste and some jam, and his jars were already open. Probably he used them while practicing, but it's not allowed by the rules. That's why it's very important to read the rules very attentively. All your ingredients should be new from the supermarket. The jars should be sealed. He also had some home melted chocolate, which is not allowed either. You can't have homemade ingredients. He had a long conversation with judges because in fact he did not have any extra ingredient allowed by the rules. In the end, they let him use the pistachio paste and the jam, and he rang his mother, who was nearby. She went and got him some chocolate from the supermarket. But I think it affected negatively his overall score, so study the rules carefully. My ingredients were all just from the supermarket, so I did not have any problems. Both of my neighbors at the table had a lot of tools. They had scales, bags with eyes, hand mixers. They had so many tools that some of them were on my table, which I did not like. Also, the woman next to me put the ice bag on the tables. She put the bowl with the eggs inside it and started beating it there. And she was shaking the table constantly. Actually, I don't think that it was necessary because they were not even in top 3 at our table. I did not have a hand mixer. I decided to use a whisk. Stefano Serafini said that it looks better when you whisk with your hand. And the judges noticed that I was whisking with my hand. So probably it added some points to my score. In the very beginning, I was calm. I made the cream. I cut the savoiardi. And it was time to make the picture on the plate. There my problems appeared. When I was making the picture with cocoa powder, the woman next to me was shaking the table so strongly that I just got some brown bulb of cocoa on my plate. I had to clean the plate with a paper towel. I also got some cocoa on my table. It was not very neat. I think the judges saw my mistake and it affected negatively my score because it could have been considered as a waste of ingredients. I finally made a picture. It was not perfect, but better than the first one. And I started assembling my tiramisu. I did not soak the savoiardi in coffee too much, but the savoiardi they gave us at the competition were different from ones I used at home. They had crust, but inside they were softer. I did not know this, and they did not need so much liquid. So when I assembled my tiramisu, it started leaking. There was a risk that this liquid reaches the cocoa. In this case, all the plate would have been dirty. So I started cleaning my plate very carefully with a paper towel. It was a very delicate job. It took me probably 5-10 minutes to do this, so I wasted some time. But in the end, I managed to clean all the coffee that was leaking. I removed the cookie cutter, and the tiramisu did not look so bad in the end. At least I was sure that it was not dry. Then the jury assessed the design before we had to cut our tiramisu into 3 parts for the judges to try. The results were announced quite quickly. The authors of the 3 best tiramisus at each table were invited to the stage, and then the winner at each table was announced. I was among the 3 best at my table, so I had to go to the stage, but I did not win. I was the third.
Partiamo con il terzo posto, la terza posizione va a Maria Pozzo, un applauso!
Maria! E a vincere invece il tavolo latte busche è, lo diciamo insieme,
Sì.
Lina Greco!
E la nostra Francesca a cambiare il cappello normale per il cappello della semifinale.
Actually, I was happy because I was so tired and so stressed after this first day that I did not want to cook this tiramisu anymore, at least for a while. When I was leaving the stage, the woman from the jury told me that my tiramisu was very tasty, so I think my problem was the design. It was not very neat, and probably some technique was not good. The semifinals and the final took place the next day, on Sunday. I didn't go to the semifinals, but I went to the finals. There were too many people, so I did not go inside, and I had to wait for the announcement of the winners. So the final starts soon. There is a crowd of people waiting to get inside, and the participants are already there. They are on the stage. They will cook their tiramisus on the stage. I don't know if you can, yeah, I think you can see them on the stage. Soon we will find out who is the winner this year. The winner in the original category was Nadia Ciolto. In the creative category, it was Isabella Bucciol. She made tiramisu with licorice, orange marmalade, and peanuts. The tiramisu looked very good. I congratulate them. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to try the tiramisus. Probably next year they will make it during the Tiramisù World Cup. By the way, I already got the tickets for the next year for the both categories because I really enjoyed this event. I liked the atmosphere. The city was very lively during the Tiramisù World Cup. I think it's a big achievement for the organizers. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that it was interesting and useful. I plan to share the recipe of my tiramisu with you, so press the like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch this video. It was your Hungry Masha. See you soon. Bye bye.